Hi, I'm Chris Martin, here in the Martin Museum once again. Just back from the NAMM show in Anaheim, where we showed the 2 millionth Martin guitar and the D-200. And behind me, the 1 millionth Martin guitar. Pretty special event. My ancestors would be very proud of the fact that the company founded by and shepherded by 5 generations up until me of Martins is still around, still prospering, and able to celebrate a very significant milestone of making 2 million Martin guitars. I've been told we have the most consistent serial number system of any of the venerable, been around forever guitar builders. And so it's a pretty safe bet that we did actually build 2 million guitars, even though in the early part of our history, we didn't put serial numbers on the guitars. In the late 1890s, we said it's time, it helps us keep track of them internally, and then once they go out into the marketplace, it helps the customer determine when the guitar was made, and it'll help us with any kind of customer service issues. So we made an estimate. We said, okay, we've made about this many guitars, and we started with that number in the late 1890s and have been consistent ever since then in terms of how many guitars we built every year. When the millionth guitar project came up, I had an idea. I thought, let's engage one of the folks that we work closely with who do inlay, and we chose Larry Robinson. And let's have a theme that honors, that harkens back to our history and our heritage. And Larry Robinson said, yep, let me do some drawings, I'll get them out to you, and then we'll go. And he sent the drawings in, and I said, I don't know, something about this, one of the design elements on the back that just doesn't seem appropriate. So I called him up, I said, Larry, I know you've got this very ornate, European look, which I really appreciate because my great-great-great-grandfather studied guitar building in Europe before he came to America. What's the deal with the crown on the back? He said, well, I don't know, I just, little poetic license. I said, my family was not descended from royalty. Although, for Christmas, I did get one of those Ancestor.com DNA kits. So you never know. If something changes after I send it off, I'll get back to you. But as far as I know, my family was not descended from royalty. So we got rid of the crown. And as they say in show business, the rest is history. So next time you come to visit, the millionth Martin guitar will be on display. And I have a funny feeling that this guitar won't be traveling very much. It made a hand-carried trip to the NAMM show, 3,000 miles away from here. Everyone treated it with a great deal of respect. I was probably the only person that picked it up a lot off of the rotating display case and showed it around, had pictures taken. But I think it's probably home now, and so when you come to visit, check it out. So how did the design of this guitar come about? Well, rather than get the sequence of discussions and drawings and discussions and drawings, and let's begin the process of making the guitar, you're going to hear from the folks that were directly involved in it. What's important to me is how proud I feel to be able to acknowledge what this stands for. Last year was the 100th anniversary of the Dreadnought guitar. So here we are 101 years later, and we still chose the Dreadnought body to make the 2 millionth guitar because that is, as my grandfather said, it's the bread and butter of the Martin line and continues to be. Interestingly enough, small body guitars are back, and we've been making small body guitars forever. In fact, that's what we started making, were small body guitars. But for the purposes of, and of course, a presentation guitar, what a statement. So what's going on with all these gears? What's that all about? Again, you'll hear the specifics in a moment. But what I got thinking about was how important keeping time is when you go to make music. And so I think there's more than just, people that like nice watches, like nice guitars. We also need to acknowledge the importance of keeping time, particularly if you're going to play with anybody else. It's one thing if you're a solo act, I guess you can meander all over the place, but if you're in a band, that cadence, that keeping of time is what keeps everyone together and makes the music sound very listenable. This guitar is not for sale, nor is the Millionth guitar. However, when we did the Millionth guitar, we did the D-100. And so we thought, why not? Why not try and do that again? This is the first D-200, and this one's going to stay in our collection. We are going to, hopefully, someday, make 49 more. We actually sold 7 at the NAMM show. We went to the show saying, we either aren't going to sell any, or we're going to sell 5 or 6. Well, we sold 7. Who would have thunk it? So, again, I'll let my colleagues tell you some of the specs. One of the really cool aspects of it's a package. If you buy this guitar from an authorized Martin dealer, not only do you get a D-200, and they are going to be numbered, serial numbered after the 2 millionth. So this is serial number 2 million. This one, which is going to stay here, is serial number 2,000,001, all the way up to 2,050,000. So, you know, you get the case, right? You buy a guitar, get the case, take the guitar out of the case, and you're looking at what's that little thing under where the neck sits, a little flap there, and you open it up. Now, if it's a used guitar, who knows? Who knows what you're going to find in there? Well, it's some old strings, a couple of picks, some lint, depending on, you know, who knows what else could be in there. On a new guitar, maybe there's just the key to the case in a little envelope. However, if you buy a D-200 and you open up that case, you're going to find a little box like this. And the box is embossed. It says C.F. Martin and Company and RGM. RGM is Roland Murphy's company. Roland hand makes watches in Lancaster, and that's part of the story. That's why the partnership made sense to us. We make guitars in Pennsylvania. Roland makes watches in Pennsylvania. Sounds like a compelling story. So you open up your little embossed case, and inside, made for you, is a Roland Murphy watch. And I actually got one myself. So I'll show you mine. It's a little different than the one you're going to get, not much. This one has a stainless steel case. Mine has a titanium case. And I did that because these guitars come with our brand new titanium strings. How cool is that? How cool is that, that we have strings made out of titanium? Unbelievably durable, not inclined to rust. Pretty cool. Very appropriate that we put those strings on both of these guitars. Available soon in a Martin dealer store near you. And the other thing that may be different on your watch than mine, and I really should have brought my reading glasses, is mine does say it's titanium and stainless steel. And I don't think yours is going to say made for Chris Martin, number 2 million. But other than that, your watch and my watch will be exactly the same.